It's gonna be fantastic. Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, I think. Hello. Oh, yeah. Hey, Commissioner. Good. Just get ready to start a special meeting. Anything you need me to do. Yeah. This is a special meeting concerning Coalburg Dam, and Christie, would you please take roll?
Mr. Malloy,
Here.
Mr. Bernard,
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here. Okay, so let's start with going around the room and introducing ourselves so that everybody knows who everybody is here. Commissioner, we can start with you.
I'm Commissioner Tony Bernard. Dan Simons, trustee in Brookfield.
Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township trustee.
Jason Tedder, Hubbard Township trustee.
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy.
Danny Malloy, Trumbull County Commissioner.
Monica Baker, Hubbard Township trustee.
Rick Hernandez, Trumbull County Commissioner.
Shannon Devitz, Brookfield Township trustee.
Mark Ford, Brookfield Township trustee.
Is there any, you're with
Community Foundation.
Scott.
Oh, okay, you're speaking on behalf. Okay.
Calvin chime in.
Are you going to be speaking?
I don't have to.
Yeah, if you want to pull a chair up at the table, you're more than welcome at the table. We got a chair behind you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what we'd like to do first, commissioners, I believe, maybe get some dialogue from Western Reserve first. And just to open the discussion up here as to, how this is moving, and the commissioners had some questions about, how this is all going to play out with Brookfield Township, Hubbard Township, whether there's any support on both of those sides. Also, liability issues that the commissioners are concerned about. Could you just open up, dialogue and start giving us a little bit of oversight, as to how this is working?
Yes, absolutely.
And give your name too before, just to let you know, anyone speaking, before you speak, please give your name and title or, where you're from.
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Just want to thank the commissioners and the trustees from the townships for kind of giving us some time today to really kind of take a deep dive into what our plan is for this, I think, really important property in eastern Trumbull County. So Western Reserve Land Conservancy, for those of you that aren't familiar, we're a land trust. We cover about 29 counties in Northeast Ohio. We do everything from property acquisition to private conservation easements to restoration to urban work, planting trees, anything that really involves with land. We try to protect it. Trumbull County has been a huge supporter overall in terms of the community base of our work. We've protected more land in Trumbull County than any other county in our service area. Most of that is agricultural private conservation easements in Northeast Trumbull County. Some really big farms up there that have been really supportive of our work and protect that land for the agricultural community in perpetuity, which I think is really important. But why we're here today is to talk about the Coalburg Lake property and the dam. So we have been engaged on this on and off for many years as an organization. Most recently, had a meeting with Kyle from the Community Foundation probably 9 months or so ago. He brought up this property. We're certainly aware of it. We're aware of the dam situation. And Kyle's like, is there anything you guys can help with? And we said, absolutely. There's also some other community support from folks in the community that just kind of want to see this kind of come to a close in terms of the liability that is associated with the dam. And also that it's not a community asset really right now. It's private property. There might be some trespassing that goes on there, but other than that, it's really not being utilized by the general public. And with a property that has that big of a aquatic resource, that we think, and I think the community thinks, that generally there could be something here that folks would like and could draw people to the area. So we got involved with Kyle. We reached out to the property owners. We do have a purchase and sale agreement executed with the property owners right now. And the reason that we kind of have brought this to light is that we are hoping to apply for grant funding to purchase this property. And to do that, we do need support from the community and from the county commissioners. In terms of what the project structure is right now, is that Western Reserve Land Conservancy would buy the property if we do get the support that we need. And we would own it for the foreseeable future until another local entity or local partner wants to step up and take on the responsibility of owning the property. The biggest and the most important key step here is that somebody gets control of this property to address the dam, right? Because that is a lingering liability. We've dealt with the dam. Those of you familiar with McKelvey Lake on the east side of Youngstown, we bought that property out of Aqua, Ohio. We resolved that dam issue in partnership with Aqua, Ohio. And now that property is owned by the city of Youngstown. So we do have some familiarity with how these processes go. They do take a lot of time and they do take a lot of money. But we've been in similar situations on a lake that was pretty similar to size as Coalburg Lake. So our intention is to buy it, to own it. We would own the majority of the land. We would donate the about 15 acres around the dam to the community foundation. And the community foundation, in partnership with Western Reserve Land Conservancy, would fundraise to do kind of all the steps that it takes to then revitalize that dam. Everybody wants to keep the dam because if we take the dam out, we know Gerard Lakes, we know what could happen in McKelvey Lake. We understand all the things that kind of, I guess, unproductive related to letting these dams fail. And I think the real benefit there is, first off, there's nothing happening right now, right? The property is sitting there and nothing's happening. If we can get control of that, meaning the Land Conservancy and the Community Foundation, we're both nonprofits. With support of the community, we can fundraise effectively to try to take on this dam situation, which I'm sure is going to be, you know, a couple $100,000 just on a feasibility study, which we have some progress. The Community Foundation, in partnership with the Kyler Foundation, Hubbard Youth Coalition, applied for a FEMA grant. And we got some communication on that in the last week that is very optimistic. They're going to help fund the feasibility study, which is the first step to figure out what needs to be done to make sure that's no longer on the ODNR registered dam list. But I can't say it enough. We can't do any of that until the property is under control of somebody that cares about saving the dam. And that is our first step. That's why we're here today, is to try to hopefully answer any questions and then ultimately get some support to try to get some funding to try to buy this property.
As of right now, the owners are under a mandate from ODNR to tear the dam down or repair the dam.
Correct.
What's the timeline on that? What's the court ruling as far as what their timeline is of when they have to act before there's penalty?
I don't know exactly.
I actually was in all the conversations with the state attorney general.
Name. You gotta do your name.
Jason Tedrow, Hubbard Township trustee. I know Bill Danza was in the last communication that we had with them as well. What they said was right now they give it an extension until 2026. I think it's September 30th. The thought was with us going for the FEMA grant, they were willing to extend that. They knew that the distribution of the money may come late. And with there being a second phase, they wanted to at least give us 2 years to see that we were making some progress, number one. Number two, abiding by their regulations with trying to maintain the lower water level and stuff like that in the lake, which we've been doing. And they expressed potential of extending that beyond the 2026 deadline if we had movement on the project. So that was the last update we had with them. I've been still continuing to send monthly reports to ODNR to make sure everything's satisfactory with the mowing of the dam walls, maintaining the spillway as well as the lake level. And there's been no issues with that so far, and just waiting to have a little bit more of a conversation on, depending on where this would go, this conversation today, to let them know, hey, there's gonna be some transition and stuff like that. So I gotta get in touch with Kevin Porter and them and kind of update them on the latest updates.
Have the owners said anything like, hey, if this doesn't go through, we're tearing the dam out, we're gonna fix it ourselves? What's the ownership?
So the ownership already had looked into demolition. So the demolition was not of the dam wall, it was actually removal of the spillway was all it was. That was because it was more cost effective for them personally. And if we're not able to do this, they're not gonna spend the 3 to 4 times as much probably, if not more. There's no real number on it. They already did have an approved plan through the state to do that removal of the spillway. So that would be cheaper for them and that would be the route that they would probably do.
I had a question. So we're talking about grants. You're seeking grant money
No,
You're looking at fundraising efforts.
so we're looking to
Give your
kind of be
name,
that.
please.
Oh, Kyle Inglis, the Trumbull County Community Foundation. So we're looking to be that vessel that could take the liability onto the dam, or at least create an entity that would be able to have that liability and allow this to happen. I think what enticed us was the fact that look, it's not, let's save the dam at all costs. I don't think, I think
No.
we just wanted to have a study done to be able to see if the dam could be saved. And from our understanding, Coalburg Lake could be an amazing community asset. It's always kind of been in private hands through the years. And what could happen if we were able to get that into public, essentially, and allow the community to use this amazing asset that could really be used for generations to come.
So the community foundation has insurance to insure that dam for liability issues if you were to take that over?
So what we would do is we would create an entity that would have the insurance in place to be able to take on that liability. Absolutely.
And you feel comfortable with whatever it costs to insure that?
We do. So I think if you talk to the Trumbull County Community Foundation Board and the community foundations, we're interested in seeing what can happen next when it comes to studying that dam. If it's not cost prohibitive to fix the dam, then all right, let's kind of trudge on, and how can we create a park that's there for the public?
So in other words, if it does fail and they do in fact breach it, then you're looking at just having that land, the Western Reserve for a park type atmosphere or what have you.
Exactly.
Yeah, the lake itself only makes up about 57 surface acres.
Right.
The entire property is 356. So there's 300 more or 299 acres in excess of this. It has Little Yankee Run that runs through it. I know they just did a study. There's 3 class 3 wetlands on the property. There's a number of added beneficial things to the property outside of just the lake.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the property, of course, as a trustee, but I just, there had been issues with liability concerns and,
Sure.
on your part, on the community foundation, taking that, that on. I think one of the concerns, and I'm not going to speak for the trustees in the past, has been insurance issues. And that land was they were looking to donate that land years ago, I think prior to.
They weren't going to donate it. That was a deal to the Trust for Public Lands for a significantly larger amount than what it is.
Yeah, well, when we were trustees, even before I was a trustee, that land was offered. However, because of insurance issues, that was the issue. So I'm just bringing up some past, why the township didn't, want to act on that. Anyway, we have, yes,
Real quick, just on what was said, Dan Suttles, USD Brookfield. If indeed, for whatever reason, whether it was breached or it failed, if the water left that area,
Sure.
that property, would it not be worth substantially less without water on it? Or not so much?
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
No. So I think, and like I said, it's not really about the value of the property, especially not from our perspective, because we're willing to kind of take the hot potato, if you will, and kind of carve off that liability because nobody else in the past has wanted to. We see that as part of our community duty, if you will, to at least have that option. But the initial discussions through to today, it's not, let's save this at all costs. I think the question is, how much would it cost to fix it? If we can raise the money through other avenues to be able to actually save the dam, great. If not, then obviously the dam has to go and the land will have to also be, salvaged in the future as a different kind of park. But
Hasn't there been a suggested price for repair?
No, there's never
What
been.
was it, 3 million?
There was some numbers that were thrown out, but there's never been a.
Guys, give your names,
study.
please.
Dan Suttles.
And
Jason Tedrow, Hubbard Township. So they threw out numbers of what people kind of just speculated. There's never been actually any true numbers because there's never been the studies to back up what the state said. And there's never been a proposal put forth to the state. There's a couple issues that they mentioned when they did the reevaluation, basically the dam. One was a low spot on the dam. there's really not a low spot on the dam wall. What it was is when they ran it out into the yards up towards Collar Price, it drops off 2 feet, a foot and a half, 2 feet. And they just didn't extend it all the way out. They're calling that the low point on the dam. So there's some things that may be kind of trumped up on what that evaluation is and what we might be able to address with it. I know when we spoke to the engineering firm in the beginning early on that submitted the scope of work for the studies. They had already started having some conversations with the state and they thought there might be some workarounds on a few things with opening up a emergency spillway. There's a potential we could look at doing a labyrinth spillway and stuff like that that would accommodate some of the water flows. It might minimize some of the work that needs to be done.
I
But
think
nobody's
if we,
really pulled anything together.
Denny Moore, Commissioner, I think if we talk to the city of Gerard, they did breach the dam there. And now they created a problem. Yeah, that they wish they would have went back. If you talk to council members, the mayor now, and done it differently then, because now they created basically a wetland that they can't do anything with because of wetland protections. Now, of course, they don't want it as a park area, but this is a little different because this is gonna be preserved through Land Conservancy in its natural state as a park setting. You don't have to worry about developing on it. You don't have to worry about building on it. Where in Gerard, they would have loved to have had development around the lake, had there been a lake there, but now development around a wetland is a whole different ball of wax. They can't do anything. So they got basically a big whole wetland that they handled the wrong way. So I personally am in favor of saving it and whatever we can explore to do to save that dam, to keep it as a lake in its natural setting as it is. I think that's the common goal of everybody. When I talked to Paul Bryan from the Community Foundation about 6 months ago, I think that's where you got involved. And we had a meeting. He said, hey, we used to play there when I was a kid. We used to have picnics there. We in Brookfield and through the Community Foundation, that's near and dear to our hearts. We want to get involved in somehow. And that glad they brought you into the realm of this thing. But there still are some questions. I guess that'll develop through here. I guess my first big question is, how is Brookfield involved in this? Because it looks like the entire entity of this is basically in Hubbard Township or not?
Split pretty well if you look at the, and so, if you look at the map.
Do you have maps you can pass out to everybody?
I-
Oh, he does here.
How many acres were, what was the split, Jason? Didn't you get that to us at that meeting?
I don't think we get into the split actually, as far as that discussion.
183 of the acres. That's water also, that's some water.
Yeah, it's some of the upper part of the lake, more of the wetland side of it, stuff like that. I didn't get into what the split was on acreage. But it does split between the two properties and it was used by Youngstown Sheep for 2 years. Where Paul and those guys probably would have been able to actually utilize it, but there was multiple baseball fields, pavilions, stuff like that. A lot of people in Brookfield and Hubbard, as well as some of the surrounding communities that enjoy that property. And that was kind of the added benefit to this, I think, is to kind of try to bring that back once part of the community. I know talking to Mr. Trumbull, he even brought up, hey, a lot of these people that worked in those mills are now getting older to the point where they're in nursing homes. How nice would it be to be able to give them something back that they can go down and sit alongside the water where they did when they used to play with their kids and stuff like that, 30, 40 years ago. And where some of the families grew up and stuff like that. The lake would be great to save. I completely agree. It does have to be cost feasible. The tough thing is, and like I said before, there wasn't any numbers were thrown out on what's based off a lot of speculation. If we can do these initial studies, which it looks like we're probably going to get approved for that FEMA grant, we'll actually be able to basically sit down with the state and say, here's where the actual numbers are. This is what we're proposing to do. One of the things, because it was regulated to a class 1, with that reevaluation following the fallout of the 2019 deal, was we're probably going to have to do some kind of concrete cladding on the dam, the earth part. That's because with the class 1, it does have a requirement of about 4.5 feet of water above the dam wall for 13 hours. My big thought was, if you're going to have that much water flowing through there, every house on Coalburg Price and everything else is going, and we probably need to look at more like spending our money on an arc. But that is the requirement of the state. And we have to see what we can do as workarounds and stuff like that. Like I said, I know the engineering firms already started having conversations last year with them on it. And I think there are some ways that we're going to be able to reduce some of those costs. So.
Okay, so commissioners, I think we all would agree. We want to, need to know what Brookfield's thoughts are about this whole plan and, you know, because you do have, how many acres?
I saw
It was 180.
83 or something.
180?
Was one of the.
Yeah, actually, look at this, you got a vast majority of the property in land.
So I think Dan Settles, and I'll let my other trustees speak as well. When this was initially posed to us at our meeting, there were several things that were asked of us. And at this point, listening what I'm hearing today, I don't know if that's necessarily so still. So let me just ask you, tell me yes or no. It looks like, I read this last letter that Jacob sent concerning the agreement with the Western Reserve Land Conservatory and the Trumbull, the Community Foundation of West Pennsylvania. This is recent, that you're looking for a letter of support from Brookfield Township. Because initially, we were given the packet that was sent to us, was one of the things was a declaration from our fiscal officer that we would be able to speak for, maybe not necessarily have to spend it, up to 25% of grant for a match, for a grant, which could be in the neighborhood of $300,000. That was a concern of ours. The second was there's such a thing as a letter of support and a resolution of support. The resolution of support, when I ran it through our legal counsel, which is our Trumbull County Prosecuting Office, there was some terminology in there that we were concerned about. So I don't know if those things still exist. If they don't, there's no sense in even talking about
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Trustee Settles, I appreciate the questions, and one of the issues here is we've been moving at a very quick pace and things have changed, and you noticed that in the letter. So we're not asking for the township, either township, to be the applicant for the Clean Ohio grant anymore. Western Reserve Land Conservancy is taking on that responsibility. What we do need is a resolution of support from the townships, both the townships and the county, to be eligible to apply for the grant. So that is the one thing that is outstanding from the township and the county standpoint.
Now, you're familiar, Meander Reservoir is waiting on a FEMA grant of close to $31 million. And it's in limbo right now. They thought they would have it, and they dealt with the congressmen, they dealt with the senators. And that money may not come. The FEMA money may have disappeared now. If they hit a certain deadline, there's technicalities on whether they hit it or not. But from my understanding, if Meander can't get it, which is definitely a water supply source for us and everybody, how sure are you or we that this FEMA grant is a possibility for this type of project?
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. I think that's one of the benefits of having both Western Reserve Land Conservancy and the Community Foundation coming to the table, is we're going to take not just a public approach to raising the money, but we can take a private approach as well. We're both nonprofit entities. We can raise money in communities from people that want to see this dam saved. Of course, we're going to try the public routes. There's more than just FEMA. There's other routes that we can try for. I guess what I would say, the point is, we can't try if we don't own it, and we're not going to try if we don't own it. So getting ownership of the property is the number one most important thing to do. I can't guarantee our success, but I can know we're going to try damn hard to get it done.
Let me ask you, you did say that you were going to have a document that showed the landowner's agreement to the purchase?
Yeah, I can't share that in a public meeting because we have a confidentiality clause, but I mean, I have it here in this folder, and if you don't believe me, I can show it to you.
No, I understand it's client,
Yeah.
attorney-client privilege. I don't know, do you feel,
Well, I'm sorry, if I could dance those. So this document, you said the resolution of support.
Yes, sir.
Of course, it was at the time, it was support for Hubbard Township. The wording would change to the conservative. All right, so, and the term that was in there that seemed to be a little bit, the fee simple acquisition, will that still remain? And in this case, that means that you, as the group, will own that property that's in Brookfield Township, and you will own it as an organization.
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. We will own all of it, but 17 acres that's going to include the dam, which the Community Foundation will.
So bottom line is, should you do this? Should we agree? Should you do the ownership property? If musical chair stops, someone's left holding the bag, it's you two, commissioners, trustees. We have no liability. We have no skin in the game. We're not responsible for, well, now you guys got to fix it because we're out. That's all on you guys. You're accepting full risk on that.
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, correct.
Dan Settles, Brookfield trustee, that will be written somewhere? Or is that for us to assume?
Well, if they're the ownership of the property, it would
Give your name,
be
please.
Jason Tedrow, Hubbard Township. If they're the ownership of the property, just like if it was now, and something happened to it, it would fall to the ownership of the property, not the community in which it's in. You know, in regards to the FEMA money, so in the allocation for the high hazard potential dam grant for this year, it's 183 million. Ohio got just short of 11 million. It did get held up when the Trump administration came in, but now that money's being released. Last conversation I had with the ODNR rep yesterday, who's in charge of that grant distribution. So they're asking for some additional funds from the engineering firm and stuff like that to provide FEMA. So they just gave us a deadline yesterday, an updated deadline on getting that information to them. Working on trying to get that done, but it does look, I think they said they had 30-some projects get put in. Most of them are for the basically study side of it, so it does have a lot of lower costs. Some of those have already dropped out, so there may be some additional monies left over for this year. And they're still waiting to find out because of that delay, if they're gonna actually put forth that, because it was supposed to be, I think, a total of $740 million was allocated for this type of project. So if that continues for the next couple of years, it varies between 180 and $210 million a year. I think the last year comes up a little bit short from that, but that total $740 million distribution.
Go ahead, I'll follow you. Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township. Alex, so you said this, but I just want to reiterate it. You do have a purchase agreement in place on your side of it. So that amount will not change in everything. My questions to legal counsel, if in fact the three entities do sign new resolutions, can the entities come back on any of us if we sign a resolution of support? Not ownership or anything, just the resolution.
Bill Fanso, prosecutor's office. You know, that's one of those questions that unfortunately it's hard to answer exactly. A lot of it's going to depend on the circumstances. A lot of it's going to depend, I think, on frankly what the language of a resolution and for a letter of support would say, what you're agreeing to. The one thing that has always given me, you know, legally speaking, a little pause on this is the language of the present consent order that's in effect over at the court right now, because it's pretty broad. It talks about, you know, not only successors in interest, but I think it was, and those persons acting in concert, privity, or participation with defendant. And, you know, I think there is language that probably for a letter of support, just a letter of support limited to, we support this grant application, that probably could be worked out. But I think that there needs to be probably some sort of review of line there where, you know, we'd have to make sure from the public point of view that, you know, again, we can't, public entities can't indemnify others. They can't take on financial obligations without certifying that the funds are available. There, when it comes to any sort of funding, and I've heard that there is no intent to ask for funding from the townships or the county at this point, but I think those are the things that we need to look at. So what I would say is, ultimately, from a legal perspective, I think what we need to do is see what the proposal is for that letter of support. And again, if that's what it really is, just a limited letter of support in the application for the grant, I'm fairly confident that we could get to some language that would be agreeable on that. But I do think that there is still some caution here, because again, this is still a pending legal action. There is a pending consent decree. The court has seemingly been willing to push those timelines back to allow for remediation of the damage to the dam and to make accommodations for people trying to solve this problem. But that order is still out there, and it is still technically an active court order. So I think we just need to be careful of that.
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Bank Conservancy, understand the concerns. I think that's totally fair. I think the resolution can be tailor drafted to this situation and try to protect the township's needs. I think that is very feasible. Just want to speak to one other thing about the timeline in terms of how the Ohio EPA looks, or ODNR looks at these dams. In our situation with McKelvey Lake and Youngstown, as long as we were showing them progress, and by the way, when they see an entity like us or the community foundation taking ownership of it, they are very excited, because they that implies they're trying to make something work. But in McKelvey Lake, I mean, they gave us extension after extension. They actually gave us awful, but they knew the whole plan was for this to become a park. They were extremely feasible with the timeline.
Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township. Can those resolutions be mirrored? So they are exactly the same for all three entities? In other words, the commissioner's resolution would be the same as both of the trustees' areas, and there would be no variation from any of that.
They should be. They actually should be. If we are going to enter into, support, then they should mirror, with the exception, of course, Brookfield Township, Hubbard Township,
Right.
Trumbull County Commissioners, but,
Yeah.
Bill.
I guess the question I have before you answer that, Bill, you said you need this support to apply for the grant. Do we have a copy of the application that shows where you need the support so we can follow the guidelines of the grant application to make sure we're meeting what the grant application is looking for?
Alex Jacob.
Because that seems to be the missing X factor here is you're saying you need this to be able to apply for the grant. Where does it show in the grant application where you need and exactly what do you need? That would spell out the legality of what we need to do.
Alex Chaco, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Yeah, we can share the language from the Ohio Revised Code, which spells out what we need. We actually only need legally 1 out of 2 townships, but obviously we want support from all the townships and the county. But we're happy to share that ORC language with you.
And I guess we feel the prosecutor, that would be the key for him to advise us on the language and what we need to put in there. And make sure that it doesn't put us in a liability risk.
And the Bill Danzo Prosecutor's Office, I agree. I think in my mind, a letter of support like this, they would all be virtually the same resolution, letters of support. Again, supporting, as I understand it, as I stand here, supporting the grant application and the funding to make this project work for them, not for necessarily the county or the townships at this point.
Question for you. So if the ORC is requiring this, Jason Tedrow, Hubbard Township. If the ORC is requiring this of communities to basically do resolutions of support, do you think that they would also have probably put in something to make sure that we couldn't be sued for offering that? It's a requirement of the grant.
I'm not so sure about that, honestly. And the reason is that these grants are often set up for circumstances where there isn't a pending consent decree to breach a dam that the EPA has in other words, there's a lot of other reasons you could apply for these grants that wouldn't include the type of liability that we're looking at here. Now, there may be, I haven't looked at this section of the code. Maybe there is some limitation of liability built into that already. We can certainly talk about that and look at that. I have no objection to that. But I also could see plenty of examples where we're not really talking about the same potential financial liability. That's all.
Well, question 2, this is for a resolution of support to purchase the property, not including the dam.
Correct.
So the dam shouldn't even be part of that.
Well, I see where you're coming from on that. The only contrary point to that, I think, is the fact that the dam, and right now the dam and the lake are all one, and as parcel goes. And the consent order is affecting both because, like we've talked earlier, there's the water level requirements to drop the water level to meet certain standards in the timeline. I think that when you separate the dam from the lake itself, my only concern with that is, again, and I think this is all stuff we can work through. I'm not trying to stop it. But I think that the trick there is there's still going to be some role of the person or the entity that owns the lake, at least for purposes of the consent order in terms of keeping the water level down at the very least, or maybe some things like that. So I think that it's hard to separate it 100%, but I agree with you. There is a interplay there.
Yeah, because it wasn't just the dam; it's a good chunk of the lake up
Correct.
into it and stuff like that. So all that requirement for working the valves and stuff like that to maintain the lake levels all completely falls on an entity that isn't for the property that the grant's being applied for.
Sure, and as long as if these entities here are the ones that are owning it and they can work together well, that's fantastic. I'm always concerned about that circumstance where what if things don't go exactly as we plan them, sitting in this room right here, and what's going to happen then if the dam isn't letting the water out to the level it should be? Who's left kind of holding that end of it up for the person or the entity who owns the lake? I just want to make sure, again, that we're clear on how that interplay works. And again, in a perfect world, the community foundation and the conservancy would be totally in lockstep on this, and I'm assuming they will be, as long as this all goes according to plan. But we want to make sure that when we are doing letters of support and that kind of stuff, that we understand exactly, again, what we're supporting and how it's going to work. And we try to plan out just in case there's any little hiccup along the way. That's all.
Monica Baker, Township, sorry,
Go ahead.
Township trustee. Before we get, not to get too far away from the letters of support portion, but who is maintaining the terms of the consent?
The ownership is doing it now. That's how they're able to maintain it with the state.
No, but I mean, who actually, I mean, have they hired
They've hired
a
people to do.
consultant or a vendor, or, I mean, they hired a
I
maintenance
believe they've
worker
hired
or?
people to mow grass, stuff like that. It's in that consent decree.
And as far as the level of the lake, who's,
I've been doing that myself. And providing the updates, as I previously said, sending the monthly updates to the state.
okay, thank you.
Trustee Ferrari, did you have a question?
from the other two. Yeah, the question, what is the timeline? When you presented, Mark for Brookfield trustee, I'm sorry. When you presented our township meeting, like September 11th or the 13th were drop dead dates, is that still into play or those aren't?
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. So our timeline is pretty short. We have about a little bit less than 2 weeks to get all this done, which we're committed to doing. We've already essentially written the grant, knowing that it might not go forward because we're in this. The timing that's important is if the township support this, to be able to hold a meeting to pass a resolution of support before, I think September 12th is the date the grant is due. We'd like to have it a couple days before that just to compile things, but we've kind of pushed this timeline, so we understand that we could be flexible if we need to be.
You know, Mark for again, Brookfield trust, this meeting is very important because we had questions we didn't know. Number one, we had no finances to commit to. We want to see it safe for all the reasons, but so this is a big help. As long as our legal counsel has the resolution provides us that, you know, we're not going to be holding the bag. Speaking for myself, obviously my colleagues are here as well, so I think it's, you know, very admirable, but we don't have the funds to help you, so.
Tony Bernard, Trumbull County Commissioner. I think the commissioner's concerns are your concerns. You know, we don't have the funds either. And I think everybody at this table is concerned about the funds. As long as we're not gonna be held liable.
Or us.
Hubbard won't be held liable. Brookfield won't be held liable. I think we're all in agreement with it. I think this is probably the best option for everybody, right? But like we all need the assurance that we're not gonna be held, if something goes south, that we don't have to go up with the funds. I think that's where everybody's coming from.
Well said.
Who owns Alex? Who owns this portion at the bottom that's outside of control of this ownership?
Yeah, that map is quite, Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, so this is also part of what we're buying everything in red, and that's that piece right there.
Okay, so that,
We were just.
the entirety of the lake, no one's gonna complain, we got rid of their water, we destroyed their lake, it's a landowner,
Yep. that's
border
right.
property owner, or
We
anything
get
like
it
that.
all, that's right.
Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township. Kyle, did your group happen to send a letter of intent to Alex's group that you are going to take care of the dam piece of the project,
A formal letter of intent.
something like that?
Well, it does appear in the minutes of our organization's meetings.
I'll give you a name.
Kyle English with the Trumbull County Community Foundation. We have a long-standing relationship with the Conservancy, so, but we can provide anything. that
No,
the
I-
Conservancy needs.
I know you guys have dealt with large projects and large land acquisitions before. Just trying to think of everything to make sure with Commissioner Bernard did say. But basically, with Alex's group, if they're gonna take over everything, there's really nothing liable for the township to be, you're taking technically all the headaches and all the legwork and everything away from all of us.
That's the goal.
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, that's correct. Us and the Community Foundation are taking on all the risk here.
Yes.
And the way I see it also is, without the foundation, dam would probably come out. And you're willing put the funds in to save it,
Try to save.
right? So, I mean. I mean, that's a win-win situation.
I trust them 100%. I trust West Reserve Land Conservancy 100% based on their track record in our community. Their board members, people that make the decisions. We've never had a negative occurrence with either of their organizations. So that gives me a good feeling about this thing based on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I don't think they take it over.
I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, right. I think it's the only fit.
And it settles.
Okay, go ahead.
In Brookfield, I'm sorry. As trustees in Brookfield, I don't see why we wouldn't want. I mean, that wasn't our thought all along. We had to worry about the liabilities of our whole township. But yes, we, in the liability and finances. But why wouldn't we? I mean, anyone that's familiar with that area, which I used to ride my bicycle all around the lake when I was younger, it's an asset that we're glad that you want to take this on. So, I mean, I can't speak for all of us again, but I definitely support, especially something.
And Alex, we had a conversation on the phone that I'd like for you to elaborate to the group here now too. Usually when West Reserve Land Conservancy comes in, they deal with the farmer, they sign it up, the farmer, you're out. And from there, property's protected, you're out. In this situation, you explained to me you do have a staff. I see you've got some other people here. You have a maintenance staff that will clean trash cans, maintain parking lots, mow grass. This is an entity thing where you're going to do a little more than what you would normally do if a farmer out there signed his property up with you or a landowner. This is something somewhat unique to you guys, but you do have a staff that you will be the entity maintaining this and responsible. If Brookfield has a problem with complaints, people are parking here, they're dumping trash, there's camping on the property, they're whatever. You guys are responsible. You will have a staff there to maintain it and be a good neighbor with the townships as far as the maintenance of it.
Alex Chaga, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Absolutely, Denny, I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, we have over 50 staff as an organization. We've grown tremendously in the last 10 to 15 years. We have several staff that focus solely on managing land, fee land that we own. We own 7,000 acres, so what's another 350? But seriously, I mean, we have capacity, we're committed to it. We try to incorporate what the public wants for that land into whatever the plans might be, whether it be public access, fishing, hunting, trails, whatever it might be. We're kind of all ears, but we want to do what's best for the community. We don't come to the community and say, this is what we do, this is what we're gonna have to do it. You guys are gonna like it. Never taking that approach because it's not effective. Come and say, well, what do you guys think is the best here? And we'll try to figure out how to accommodate that. But our staff is committed to maintaining this and we will maintain it for as long as we need to.
No, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Denny just brought up a point about people dumping and stuff like that. That's probably gonna be the biggest headache. Jason Tedrow, Hubbard Township, the biggest pain for the townships maybe is helping some additional policing, I would assume on that. Or some of the tire dumping, some of the ATV stuff that probably we have to see some stuff like that. That would probably be the heaviest workload I would think you guys would propose to us.
Yeah. Alex Chaga, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Yeah, again, we own 7,000 acres. Trust vesting is not new to us. It happens everywhere. Four-wheelers, ATV, whatever it is, we're used to that. We have techniques to try to do the best we can to minimize that. But certainly help from the local community with people that live near and around the property. We always benefit from because they can call us. I'm not going to be driving by here necessarily every day. But try to enroll in programs. Like one of the programs we enroll a lot of land is the OHAP program, which is the Ohio Hunter Landowner Access Program through ODNR. Initially funded by the Farm Bill that allows for public access for hunting. If we have public access for hunting, it's going to be kind of self-policed, right? Because if somebody's hunting a tree stand and somebody rips by on a four-wheeler, they're not going to be happy, and they're probably going to go down and have to talk with whoever that person is, right? So developing these programs to kind of self-police and kind of everybody's kind of caring about the land in a similar way.
So what's your schedule, excuse me, so what's your schedule maintenance on the property? If you take it over, you told me you had staff of 50 people. Are you there every other day, once a week, twice a week? What would be your schedule there?
Alex Chaga, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. It really depends on how we program it. If it's a full-blown public park with a picnic area, a pavilion, and a shelter, it's probably more. It's probably once a week or more. If it's a public hunting area with a parking lot where people can park and then just go hunting, it's probably less. I think it depends on what we create here, and I think that's going to be up to the community.
And if you partner with ODNR, For wildlife areas.
Would the townships decide that?
Alex Jago, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and we would have those discussions with town. I mean, somebody asked before, and I don't think I answered the question, we're probably a year out if everything goes well from buying this property.
Dan Settles, trustee, the latest letter we received, there's one sentence here. Near the end, it says. You intend to own the land for a few years until a suitable local partner is prepared to take ownership. What does that mean?
That means if Alex Jago, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, if one of the townships or another nonprofit entity, community foundation said, well, we'd really like to own this, we think we're better at operating and owning this property, we're all open to that. So we're not locking ourselves in to be the owner forever. If somebody came to the table, your township came to the table and said, we actually think we could do this better, we live here, we'd like to take it over, we could transfer the property to similar, we can transfer it to a political subdivision of the state, not ODNR, or another qualifying nonprofit that has conservation in their mission.
And as a donation?
Correct.
Or park district?
Correct.
And why not ODNR, like Warren Wildlife Area? You couldn't make this a wildlife area?
Only because the state law associated with Clean Ohio funds does not allow the state of Ohio to own properties that were funded by Clean Ohio. We wish that wasn't the case, but it is.
Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township, speaking on the cleanup of the area, I don't think that's an issue. We're out there quite a bit now with dumping usually, try to keep on top of that, and I know Brookfield has the same issues with that too. So that can be worked out with the entities. The other thing I do want to comment on, by you sending this letter out, it makes me feel very comfortable, a lot more comfortable than I did in the past. Not speaking for everybody, but for me.
Yeah.
I agree.
And our meeting will be on September 9th, if that's okay. And at that point, if we receive a year resolution, we will at least present it. Message.
Would that be provided by the county?
Well, that's that, and that, I was just gonna bring that point up. Bill, is the county, well, do we have access to be able to write the resolution? Or is the resolution, do we have to hear from Western Reserve to see exactly how to write this resolution? Because we want townships as well as the county to be all, same language, verbiage.
Bill Danso, prosecutor's office. I mean, I think that the language has to be driven by what the letter needs to include from their angle, from their perspective for grant compliance. So if they're willing to share, if it's the statutory authority that they're looking for, if it's something that they've put into the grant that they're looking for the county and the townships to do, if they wouldn't mind sharing that with us, they don't have to draft it. If they just want to provide that information, at least then we could see what it is they need. The last thing we want to do is just pass resolutions that they're not
Exactly.
happy with. So
When can you get us that resolution, Alex?
Alex Jago, Western Reserve Land Conservancy,
That information.
Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
And we meet the 10th, we would be able to go on September 10th is our next
We
meeting.
meet Tuesday, so.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, we meet the following month.
I don't mind doing a special.
Yeah, we could do a special meeting, that's not.
If you're not saying until the 8th, anyhow.
Yeah, that's right. We meet the 8th.
I guess we can actually vote on it on the 9th at our public workshop. We can do resolutions on that those days also.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank everybody for attending here today. Yeah, and I think this is a positive, outcome that we, at least at this point. Do you have a question?
I do have a question. Monica Baker, Township Trustee, Hubbard Township Trustee. We've talked about putting everything in place for the start of the situation. My one question, now you did say for however long it takes, Alex, that the Conservancy would be custodians of the land, but the goal really is to transfer it. Where do we see that in writing that, or it's just part of the sales agreement that once you become owners of the land?
Alex, once Western Reserve signs the property up under you, if you transfer it to somebody, they're still gonna be bound by your conservancy, so you can't give it to another entity, and they turn around and sell it and build houses on it. It's always gonna be kept as it is under the original contract with you, without severe penalty of someone acquiring it and doing that. So I guess just to clear that up a little bit, is in case anyone had thoughts of, they're gonna own it for a few years, then they're gonna sell it to a developer
No, I
or
mean,
something.
that's not my concern, but my concern is once it's transferred, then your 50-person staff is no longer going to be doing any of the maintenance or the upkeep, maintenance of the property. And also, in terms of policing and emergency services, I don't think we've talked about either of those. And the goal really is not, I mean, even though you have 7,000, what's, right, like once you have 3 or 4 kids, what's a couple more? So, I get that, but, really, you're not in the business, so you're wanting to conserve the land and transfer it out.
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. I mean, to say our goal is to transfer it, I guess is strong. We're willing to hold it for as long as we need to hold it. And if a township or another organization never comes to the table, then we're gonna own it.
And I think that's the key, you as a township have the opportunity to take it over and work with the foundation also, and
They have the opportunity to take it over.
Yeah, and you have to remember, you have the foundation that's willing to put up their own dollars if they have to help you. And I think everybody
For the
wants,
purchase.
well, I think everybody wants to make it better, okay? You're not gonna take this over and just leave it the way it is. Everybody wants to make it better, okay? And I think that's what I'm hearing here, but I think you as a township have a great opportunity that you can say, wait a minute, now we want this. And you can have it.
But that brings up another great point, Commissioner. And I'm wondering now that this has come to my mind. Alex, Hubbard Township wants the property. Where does Brookfield, what happens to Brookfield?
Have to agree.
And to some degree, it almost would have
Yeah,
to.
they can't take over properties in another township and run
Right.
another township. So being that split, that's a good thing. It
Right.
doesn't give autonomy to any one township to do
So they
that
would only assume
without annex.
their portion.
We can't annex.
Right.
Township, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Well,
So-
I think it's a township for Jason Tucker Hubbard Township. Any community can own property in another community. It doesn't necessarily have to be annexed. But if somebody wanted to make a donation, from my understanding, if like say somebody passed away and wanted to donate a house to the community where they grew up in or something like that, they can own it, sell it, and then reap the sales or whatever off of it. But I don't think there's anything that limits anybody.
I think Dan Sutto's Brookfield trustee. I don't know the law, but I think property in Brookfield Township or Hubbard can't own property in Brookfield Township. I mean,
Okay,
I
so
don't
then
understand.
you would still own the other portion.
If we didn't want to.
If
Shannon,
you
that
didn't
was-
want, go ahead, Shannon.
That was my concern, is down the road, you coming back and somebody saying, hey, we're done with this, and then we have to take it over, and we don't have a park levy, like, how do we maintain this once it's developed?
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. First off, we can't just make you take it.
Well, if it did come up again, and there could be a new
Would be
board.
a
and
choice on our
yeah,
part, is that what
choice
you're
of the
saying?
Sure.
people at that point, but like, how would that work? I mean,
Yeah,
we don't have the
you
funds to
you have
maintain
the
it.
foundation
Choice of your
as your
board,
backup. I mean,
Right.
you have
It
the
would be the choice
foundation.
of that board at the time, whether they would take it on. Nobody can force you to maintain or take care of something. It would basically put the property right back in the state that it's in now, where there's a landowner that doesn't live in the area and the property is just there more or less. It would be no different than where it stands right today.
Well, it's private property now.
It's still
Public.
technically private property
But it'd be
because
open to the public, so it's a Shannon Devitt's Brookfield Township, it would be a completely different conversation, because now you would have trails and developed. Things back in it we need to maintain,
potentially, if they chose to do that.
okay.
Bill Coletta, Hubbard Township, but I'm going on, let's say that the two townships do not agree when it's time to go down the road. Hubbard Township could purchase or can assume their portion and start to develop, and if Brookfield didn't care to do it at that time, it would stay in your hand, or vice versa.
Okay, that was my question,
Am I
you know,
thinking properly on that?
Alex Jago, Western Reserve Blanket Service. Yeah, I think something like that can be worked out. And just for the record, I'm not an attorney and I'm not representing anybody, but I do believe that a township can own land in another township. Park districts that we work with all the time buy land not even in their county. Working on a project right now in Ashland County, they're buying land in Richmond County. So I do think that's possible. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do that, but I
does
do
that
think,
become annexed part of?
Nope. no,
No
just owned by the
annex.
park district.
So
Not
in other
annexed.
words, Brookfield Township would still, it would be
still
in
their-
Brookfield
it would be in
Township,
their
but
community.
Hubbard Township could own it.
And actually, I know for sure, Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, there's a situation right by our headquarters in eastern Cuyahoga County. Where the village of Hunting Valley bought the land in Moreland Hills and it was not annexed. They just own it and it's in Moreland Hills.
So Dan settles, so that's still in the township. It's just the owner, yeah,
That's
that,
correct.
all right, that I could understand. Anyone can own property. I mean, somebody from Warren could come and buy, Warren could buy property in Brookfield.
Yep.
It's still Brookfield's.
Yep.
It's our tax base, still our tax base
Yep.
won't be diminished.
Is there anything in this agreement that you're doing that shows I know it shows it's always gonna be not able to be developed? Is there anything that shows it's always gonna be public access? And someday you're not gonna get it, we're gonna support it. Now West Reserve Land Conservancy says, we'll only let Brookfield and Hubbard Township residents on our property, everyone else is trespassing. Is there anything in there that shows that this will remain public property for your ownership?
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. So
I do know you need to maybe limit hunters, things like that. Some conservancy lands have drawings, so they don't have overhunting for safety or permits to get fishing or whatever. We just wanted to make sure too that this is always gonna be, if we're trying to save this for the public, we wanna make sure it's open to the public for its entirety.
yeah, Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy. So a requirement of Clean Ohio is that you do not have to make it public. But obviously, we're here today, we're hearing everybody's input, and yes, we will be putting that in the grant. At that point, we're held to the Clean Ohio program to make sure that it is public, and they do have somebody that comes out and checks the properties to make sure that they are public.
Okay, so Brookfield Township trustees, are you comfortable with?
Once we see the language we have approved from Mark Friedrich for trustee, when we see the language from the prosecutor, I believe.
I believe as a group,
Yep.
I mean, just looking at head nods and questions have been answered. Yes, I mean, this is, I'm glad we have this information, totally different than the first package we were on. That's where we had questions, not that we didn't want to be part of it. This definitely relieves a lot of our fears. And I think you both groups should be applauded for wanting to help out both townships, and I appreciate that as a trustee. I'm pretty sure that
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if we did.
a letter of support or a resolution that's driven by the
Consistent.
prosecutor that is good legally.
And
Well, what's good for you is good for the county. And
Now,
we're not gonna
Hubbard
sign
Township-
something, we have the same concerns you have.
Trustee Coletta, Monica Baker, trustee Baker. I know Jason's one.
I've had a lot of questions answered. I still haven't heard anything about how policing or emergency services are going to be servicing the area.
Probably the same.
As we do now. Yeah.
I would see that too. If something happens on the property now, no matter who the owner is,
Certainly.
you still within your entity, within your jurisdiction.
Okay, so commissioners, I think we've heard,
I think it
we've
was a
heard
great
from the
meeting.
trustees.
I learned a lot. You know, I thank everybody for coming and
Thank-
enlightening me.
Thank you too for being here and for your interest and input. Of course, I'm a Hubbard Township guy myself, So,
This is a happy resolution, like Community Foundation stepping forward. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, all entities involved with this. A
and
great
Thank you all.
community effort.
Alex, so you are gonna work on,
Yeah, if I can get contact info for all the trustees and commissioners, so I can email you that resolution on Tuesday, I'd be happy to do so. Yeah,
And I'd like to thank the commissioners too for being, bringing everyone together. That's how you solve miscommunications. If you all sit around the table and talk about it. I know I can say for both the council, I appreciate your, thank you.
very well.
We appreciate it.
Well, this is what we're supposed to do as elected officials. And we're supposed to work that out in the best interest of the county and of your community. So that's the goal.
Very, it'll collect a very large project involving the two townships and the county also, but I mean, it'll be vision down the road, this will be a great thing.
And the main goal is to save that area there, and it's always been, you wanna hopefully success to save that dam and, have the water there and have it used as public use in the future for,
I think once it gets all settled, I think all the residents of Trumbull County is gonna use it. A lot of people don't even know about it. Now they're being made aware of it.
Well, and that was kind of the goal. I know when I first sat down with like Bill Strimbo and the
So give your
Community
name,
Foundation,
please.
Jason Tedder, Hubbard Township. That was one of the conversations, like where would Brookfield maybe be even economically if Yankee Lake was still there? Like Denny brought up with Gerard, like where would they be? You see, they still have one that does have water, and if it doesn't get utilized, and how much of a draw could that be? I mean, we look at sometimes developing businesses and everything else, but what else can we bring into our communities to bring in some people to, bolster our small businesses instead of just bringing in large corporations?
Well, I want to caution everybody too, we're not the finish line yet. There's a landowner that could back out of a deal. There is grants that could fall through. We still need to stay together to see this thing through. Just throwing our support doesn't mean it's a done deal yet. And we need the public to understand that too, that we want the public to support as we do. And there, there'll be critics either way. We're always going to get that stuff, but I think we're all on the same page doing what we need to do. But now we need to dot the i's and cross the t's to get it to the finish line.
Monica Baker, Hubbard Township trustee, you said you have the purchase agreement with you. Are you able to share when that was executed publicly?
July.
20.
It's in the letter.
Yeah.
It's in your
It
letter.
is in the letter, but I didn't know if it was allowed to be shared
July
publicly.
22nd.
Okay,
I'll share.
and are there because that's a great thing that that's a huge hurdle milestone, and I'm assuming that there are a number of contingencies, and so you're not allowed to share.
And if you said it's gonna take a year for that,
Yeah.
there must be a bunch of
Yeah.
contingencies in there.
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, we have great attorneys, so we're protecting ourselves to the max, but
Sure.
we're trying to buy this property.
Are you allowed to share as those contingencies are milestones are met, or give us some kind of update on the progress, or keep us in the loop at all? Or just-
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, absolutely, we'll keep you in the loop. I mean, the biggest hurdle that we faced was this meeting today. Our next hurdle is getting these resolutions to everybody that needs them. If that all goes well, Nate, who's on our team over here, has been writing the grant for the last 2 weeks. Is to submit that grant on September 12th. We'll probably find out in November, December in terms of if we're successful, and we'll absolutely share that information. We want to share the great news. And we'll let everybody know that, and then after that, it'll be kind of contingencies associated with the grant process and our purchase sale agreement. And we'll look to try to close it. Like I said, we're probably looking at next summer, middle of 2026. Yes.
Is your contingency on getting the grant? If you don't get the grant, is Western Reserve Land Conservancy out?
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, it's similar to that, yes. Similar to having funding.
So you're not
We-
using
yeah.
your money to buy
We
it.
have outs in our contract.
Yeah, but you're not using, you're planning on using the grant money to buy it, not Western Reserve's money.
That's the goal.
Just brought one other question. Who's going to pay for the surveys? Surveillance of the property?
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, that's a great question.
Because it's a lot of land.
It's either us or the seller. I can't remember exactly which one. Who's
And
coming?
you don't have a problem with paying for it?
No,
Okay.
we've paid a lot of money for surveys before.
And these
That'd be the most
guys,
expensive.
don't kick in until you have the property and then split the title or split the deed or the
Plat,
plat.
parcel.
Yeah, the parcels off to that. So they're way down the road.
Alex Jacob, Western Reserve Land Conservancy, we haven't got there yet, but it will be very cheap for them.
Everybody got their questions answered? Ms. Baker? Trustee David. Well, you know what, you always have access after the meeting too.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Do we have your?
I'll get you. Yeah, great card.
Thank you again, everyone. We
Thank you.
appreciate your thought. Madam Clerk, roll.
No, Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Oh, we have to
Second.
do that first. Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.